It's 3:17 in the morning. You're awake again. Not because of a noise, not because of a bad dream, and not because you plan to be. You're awake because your body is telling you it's time to get up and go to the bathroom. Again. For millions of adults over 60, this happens night after night. Sometimes once, sometimes 2 or 3 times. And after a while, many people begin to accept it as a normal part of getting older. They blame their bladder, they blame their prostate, or they simply assume there's nothing they can do about it. But what if that's not entirely true? What if one of the biggest reasons you're waking up at night has less to do with your bladder and more to do with something most people never think about? The way they drink water. In fact, researchers have discovered that when you drink water may be just as important as how much you drink. And for some people, making a simple change may help reduce those frustrating nighttime trips to the bathroom. But here's the part most people never hear. The bathroom may not be the real problem, because what wakes you up may matter even more than what sends you there. And that raises an important question. What exactly changes inside the body after 60 that makes these nighttime wake-ups so much more common? And could one of the simplest habits in your daily routine be making the problem worse without you even realizing it? The answer may surprise you. And once you understand what's really happening inside the body after 60, you may never look at those nighttime wake-ups the same way again. So what exactly changes after 60 that makes these nighttime wake-ups so much more common? The first thing to understand is that getting up to use the bathroom during the night is not necessarily unusual. In fact, occasional nighttime bathroom trips can happen at almost any age. The problem begins when those interruptions become frequent. Night after night, week after week, year after year. Because most people focus on the trip to the bathroom itself, but that may not be the part that matters most. The real issue may be what happens to your sleep. Every time you wake up, your body has to pause some of the recovery work that normally takes place during the night, processes that become increasingly important after 60. Your brain processes information. Your body regulates hormones. Your tissues recover from the stresses of the day. And your energy systems prepare you for the next morning. That's why many experts don't just look at how often someone urinates during the night. They also look at what those interruptions may be doing to the quality of their sleep. The good news is that waking up at night doesn't automatically mean something is seriously wrong, but it may be a sign that one or more of the systems responsible for managing fluids during sleep are no longer working quite as efficiently as they once did. And one of the most important of those systems involves a hormone that many people have never heard of. A hormone whose job is to help the body reduce urine production while you're asleep. In other words, it's part of the reason most people can go several hours without needing to use the bathroom during the night. So what is this hormone? And why does it often change after 60? So what is this hormone? It's called antidiuretic hormone, often shortened to ADH. Most people have never heard of it. Yet it plays an important role in what happens while you're asleep. Think of ADH as one of the body's nighttime managers. As evening approaches, your body normally begins releasing more of this hormone. Its job is simple: to tell the kidneys to conserve more water and produce less urine during the night. In other words, it's part of the reason most people can sleep for several hours without needing to get up and use the bathroom. It's a remarkably efficient system. While you're resting, your body quietly adjusts how fluids are handled so that sleep can continue uninterrupted. But, like many systems in the body, this process can begin to change with age. Research suggests that some older adults may produce less ADH during the night than they did when they were younger. And when that happens, the kidneys may continue producing larger amounts of urine while you're sleeping. The result? Your bladder fills more quickly, and the signal to wake up may arrive sooner than it once did, sometimes much sooner. This doesn't mean ADH is the only reason someone wakes up to urinate at night. Far from it. Nighttime bathroom trips can also be influenced by medications, sleep disorders, circulation changes, fluid intake habits, and several other factors. But understanding ADH helps explain something many people have never considered. Your body is not simply reacting to a full bladder. It may be responding to changes in the very systems that were originally designed to protect your sleep. And that leads us to another important discovery. Because for many people, part of the problem may begin long before they ever go to bed. It may begin during the day, in their legs. So, how can your legs have anything to do with waking up to urinate at night? At first, it sounds strange. After all, most people think nighttime bathroom trips begin in the bladder, but for many older adults, part of the story may begin much earlier. Throughout the day, gravity is constantly pulling fluids downward, and as we get older, the body may become slightly less efficient at moving some of those fluids back into circulation. As a result, small amounts of fluid can gradually collect in the lower legs and ankles. Many people notice this as mild swelling. Others may not notice it at all, but the fluid is still there. Then something interesting happens when you finally go to bed. The moment you lie down, gravity is no longer pulling those fluids toward your feet. Over the next several hours, some of that fluid begins moving back into the bloodstream. Your kidneys suddenly have more fluid to process, and when the kidneys filter more fluid, they produce more urine. The result? Your bladder may begin filling even though you haven't had a single sip of water since dinner. This is one reason some people are surprised to find themselves waking up to urinate, despite being careful about what they drink before bed. The problem may not have started with what they drank that evening. Part of it may have been building throughout the entire day. This doesn't happen to everyone, and it certainly isn't the only cause of nighttime urination. But it helps explain why two people can drink the exact same amount of water before bed and have very different experiences during the night. And it also explains something many people never consider. The problem may not be how much water you drink. It may be when you drink it, because for some people, the timing of their water intake may be making those nighttime bathroom trips far more likely. So, what is the best way to drink water after 60? And could one simple change help you sleep through the night more often? So, what is the best way to drink water after 60? The answer may be simpler than many people expect. One of the most common mistakes people make is assuming that the solution is to drink less water, especially in the evening. And at first, that seems logical. If you're waking up to urinate during the night, drinking less should solve the problem. Right? Not necessarily. Because when the body becomes even mildly dehydrated, several things can happen. Some people may feel more tired. Some may experience headaches. Others may notice dizziness, dry mouth, or constipation. But dehydration can also affect how efficiently the body manages fluids throughout the day. That's why many experts encourage older adults to focus not only on how much water they drink, but when they drink it. In fact, many people spend most of the day slightly underhydrated, and then try to make up for it during the afternoon and evening. Without realizing it, they may be shifting a large portion of their fluid intake closer to bedtime, and that's where problems can begin. Think about it this way. If most of your water intake happens late in the day, your body has less time to process those fluids before you go to bed, and that may increase the likelihood that some of that fluid will still be moving through your system while you're trying to sleep. On the other hand, when hydration is distributed more consistently throughout the day, the body often has more time to regulate those fluids before nighttime arrives. Of course, every person is different. Medical conditions, medications, activity levels, and individual needs all play a role. But this helps explain why simply drinking less water is not always the answer. In some cases, the timing of hydration may matter just as much as the total amount. And that leads to another question. If hydration timing is only part of the story, what else could be increasing those nighttime bathroom trips? For many people, the answer may be sitting right inside their medicine cabinet. So, what could your medicine cabinet possibly have to do with waking up at night? More than many people realize. Because some of the medications commonly used after 60 may influence how the body manages fluids. That doesn't mean the medication is bad. And it certainly doesn't mean anyone should stop taking a prescribed medication without speaking to their doctor. But it does mean that timing and medication type can sometimes play a role. One of the best-known examples involves medications called diuretics, sometimes referred to as water pills. These medications are often prescribed for conditions such as high blood pressure, heart failure, or fluid retention. Their job is simple: to help the body remove excess fluid. And they can be extremely effective when used appropriately. But because they increase urine production, they may also increase the need to use the bathroom, especially if they're taken later in the day. And diuretics are not the only medications that may contribute. Certain blood pressure medications, some medications used for swelling, and even a few commonly prescribed sleep-related medications may indirectly affect nighttime urination in some individuals. Again, this doesn't mean the medication is causing the entire problem, but it may be one piece of a much larger puzzle. That's why doctors often look at the full picture: sleep habits, fluid intake, medical conditions, medications, and how all of those factors may be interacting with one another, because nighttime urination is rarely caused by a single thing. More often, it's the result of several small factors working together. And there's one more factor that many people never consider, a condition that may be waking them up long before they ever feel the need to use the bathroom: sleep apnea. In fact, some people may think they're waking up because their bladder is full, when the real reason they woke up happened moments earlier. And for some older adults, that may be one of the most overlooked causes of nighttime wake-ups after 60. So how can a sleep problem cause someone to wake up and use the bathroom? The answer surprises many people, because in some cases, the trip to the bathroom may not be what caused the awakening. It may simply be what happened after the person was already awake. Sleep apnea occurs when breathing repeatedly becomes partially or completely blocked during sleep. These interruptions may last only a few seconds, and many people have no memory of them the next morning. But the body notices. Each time breathing is disrupted, the brain may briefly pull the body out of deeper stages of sleep. Sometimes only for a moment. Sometimes long enough for a person to become aware that they're awake. And once you're awake, something interesting happens. You become aware of signals that you may have slept through otherwise, including the sensation that your bladder is not completely empty. So instead of rolling over and continuing to sleep, you get up and go to the bathroom. That's why some experts believe that in certain individuals, nighttime urination may occasionally be a consequence of poor sleep rather than the original cause of it. This doesn't mean everyone who wakes up to urinate has sleep apnea. Far from it. But it does help explain why some people continue waking up at night even after they've tried changing their fluid intake habits. Because the bladder may not always be the first domino to fall. Sometimes, something else tips it over first, because what wakes you up may matter even more than what sends you to the bathroom. And when that happens, night after night, the effects may extend far beyond a few interrupted trips to the bathroom. They may begin affecting how you feel during the day, your energy, your concentration, your balance, and even your confidence in your ability to stay active and independent. So what should you actually do if you're waking up at night on a regular basis? And which simple steps may help reduce those interruptions over time? So, what should you actually do if you're waking up at night on a regular basis? The first step is surprisingly simple. Start paying attention to patterns, because nighttime urination is often treated as a single problem, when in reality, it may be the result of several different factors working together. For example, you might notice that certain evenings are worse than others. You may find that your symptoms change depending on when you drink water, how active you've been during the day, or even whether you've spent long periods sitting without moving. The second step is to take a closer look at timing, not just the timing of your evening fluids, but the timing of your hydration throughout the entire day. Many people focus on what they drink before bed, but as we've seen, part of the story may begin much earlier. The third step is to pay attention to other clues your body may be providing. Do your ankles seem more swollen by the end of the day? Do you often wake up feeling tired even after spending enough hours in bed? Has anyone ever mentioned that you snore heavily or seem to stop breathing while you sleep? These details may seem unrelated, but sometimes they provide important clues about what's really contributing to those nighttime wake-ups. And finally, don't assume that frequent nighttime urination is simply something you have to live with, because while occasional bathroom trips can be completely normal, persistent changes are often worth discussing with a healthcare professional, especially if the problem seems to be getting worse over time, or if it's beginning to affect your sleep, energy, balance, or quality of life. The goal is not necessarily to eliminate every nighttime bathroom trip. The goal is to understand why it's happening. Because once you understand the cause, you may be in a much better position to address it. And, perhaps more importantly, you may be protecting something that becomes increasingly valuable after 60. The ability to wake up feeling rested, clear-headed, steady on your feet, and ready to enjoy the day ahead. And that brings us to one final thought about what these nighttime wake-ups may really be trying to tell you. As we've seen today, waking up to use the bathroom at night may be about far more than a full bladder. It may involve changes in hormones, changes in how the body manages fluids, the timing of your hydration, the medications you take, your sleep quality, or several of these factors working together at the same time. And perhaps that's the most important thing to remember. Many people assume that waking up at night is simply a normal part of getting older, something to accept, something to live with, something that doesn't deserve much attention, but that may not always be true. Because these nighttime wake-ups may sometimes be your body's way of drawing attention to something else. A change in sleep, a change in circulation, a change in hydration, or a change in one of the systems that help regulate what happens while you're asleep. And understanding those signals may be one of the most important steps toward protecting something that becomes increasingly valuable with age. Restful sleep, reliable energy, clear thinking, steady movement, and the ability to continue living life on your own terms. Because the goal isn't simply to make fewer trips to the bathroom. The goal is to understand why those trips are happening in the first place. Because the bathroom may not always be the problem. It may be the message, and understanding that message may be one of the most important steps you can take toward protecting your sleep, your energy, and your independence as you get older. If you found this video helpful, let us know in the comments. How many times do you typically wake up to use the bathroom during the night? And if you enjoy learning about the hidden changes that happen after 60, be sure to subscribe to the Aging Code so you don't miss future videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.